now I'm going to peel some tomatoes. The way you first do this is, let's say you have to peel a really big bunch of tomatoes. Like this, I have a really big bowl here. What you would do is you would look at the bowl, you would spill them all out on a table, and you would lift one at a time and feel their ripeness. The heavier the tomato, the more ripe that it is. Also, the redder a tomato, the more ripe that it is. Sometimes you'll get a tomato that's a little bit on the orange side. I'm not talking about an orange tomato here. I'm talking about a tomato that's supposed to be red. If it's on the orange side, that means it's a little bit underripe. So that means it's going to take another few seconds to peel the tomato. You know, it's going to have to go into boiling water. And we're going to talk about the pot. I'm going to just pick up a couple of these tomatoes here that are probably of like texture. I'm going to take off the stem end. Now sometimes, if you're really new at this, what you could do, I've never ever done this. I've never needed to do it, so I don't really suggest you doing it because I think it's an added step. People will make a slit in the bottom of a tomato, which will, after it's been in boiling water, supposedly it bursts open. It's easier to peel that way. I've never done it. I think it's a waste of time. So what I do is I just take my tomatoes. Let's just say there's 4 tomatoes. Now the thing that's most important is you want to remember that you're not cooking these tomatoes. You're just wanting to release the skin. So standard procedure is this. A ripe tomato needs 10 seconds in rapidly boiling water. If it's a more orange tomato of the red sort, you would have 13 seconds, 15 seconds. It's always better to, err on the side of, before you're done, because you could always put it back into the boiling water. Now let me just, before I put this in, let me just show you this particular pot. So if I wanted to do, let's say, 6 tomatoes at a time, I could do this. This is a blanching pot. You'll see me use it in some other sections here. This is a great pot because it allows you to get the tomatoes or anything in and get them all out when you know that they're all ready, as opposed to having to chase them. If you do 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 tomatoes at a time, you'll want to use a large perforated, this is called a spider. It's used a lot in Asian cooking. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not even going to use my blanching pot, the insert. I'm just going to drop these in, and I'm going to count to 10. Okay, now I'm going to go get this with my spider. Again, another step that some people do that I had never felt the need to do is to refresh tomatoes in ice cold water to stop the cooking process, but I never even cooked them. So as long as you're careful, and I'm going to tell you how you could know. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I'm going to tell you how you could know if you've overdone it, and you will overdo some of them. You want to remember that when you peel a tomato, sometimes it'll look very powdery, the flesh, after you've peeled it. Look how easily this comes off. But you want the flesh to be on the shiny side, not on the powdery side. You see how this is kind of nice and shiny? It's not cooked. It's just peeled, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to do one more for you. And what you do is, this is why I don't need to X the bottom. You just take your thumb and you pick out the stem end and just pull off. This is a beauty. Look how shiny and beautiful that is. That's a perfectly peeled tomato. Now I'm going to show you how to seed them. You want to seed a tomato. It has, of course, 2 ends here. This is the stem end. This is what I call the belly of the tomato. It's the waste. The way you get the most seeds out of a tomato is to cut it through the belly, not through the stem end. You just cut it down. I also use a serrated knife. This is the best. This is actually called a tomato knife. If I was just going to chop this tomato and not peel it, and I wanted to get rid of the stem end, I would use the tip of this tomato knife to just pick it out like that. I'll just take the skin off. Do you see how easy the skin comes off and how beautiful this is? This is a perfect tomato. It's nice and shiny, it's peeled, and it's not cooked. Now, I've cut my tomato through the belly, and you see how all of these seeds are exposed? I'm going to do it on a bigger tomato, so maybe it's even easier for you to see. Cut it through the waist. All the seed cavities are exposed here. I'm going to show you the difference. If I cut it through the stem end, the difference is you only have one cavity on each side exposed. So that means that a lot of these seeds are being trapped back here. So that when I squeeze, which is what I have to do, I'm just going to squeeze the seeds out into a bowl like that. I only have to squeeze gently so I don't have to annihilate the flesh of the tomato. To get all the seeds out here, I have to really squeeze because I have to get it out from the back. So I can't maintain as perfect texture as I can when I cut it through the belly. Again, I'm just going to seed all of these. By the way, you don't have to throw this out. This is delicious stuff. You just can strain out the seeds. You can use it in a vinaigrette. You can use it in your sauces and your soups. You can drink it straight. You can add it to your stocks, all sorts of stuff. I'm going to just cut these up now. Again, it helps to use a serrated knife. And the reason why I say that is that certain vegetables are easier on your knife blades. The truth is, though, that once you peel a tomato, it's easier on a blade. So you could, at this point, switch to a chef knife. So now if you were going to make a homemade tomato sauce, a homemade marinara sauce, you would do that. You would blanch all of these tomatoes and then peel them and then seed them and then chop them just like I did. That's all there is to it.